The 2018 midterm elections may be next year, but political groups are already ramping up before voting. The Human Rights Campaign, an advocacy group for the gay community, has announced a $26 million grassroots campaign. The group will focus on Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, and Nevada. To weigh in on the midterm election campaign is Terry Schilling, Executive Director of American Principles Project, a conservative organization committed to protecting life and religious liberty. So Terry, you know liberal groups like the Human Rights Campaign are very well funded, they're very well organized. What about conservative groups?
Well, conservative groups aren't as well funded, but we are working very hard to counter the left's efforts in politics. You know, one of the things that conservatives do very well is we fight very well on the academic front. We've got great people like Professor Robbie George and even one of my good friends, Ryan Anderson at the Heritage Foundation. But we don't answer the left's charges in politics when it comes to fighting them on the LGBT religious freedom front. So what we're working to do right now is to counter their measures in politics.
The grassroots campaign for them is focusing on, as I mentioned, money in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, and Nevada. These are all states that voted for Trump. So do you believe they're vulnerable and voters could elect Democrats in 2018?
Well, look, I think anything can happen in politics, but let's be clear. These are Rust Belt states that are generally very conservative. So if conservatives fight on the issues and actually articulate these viewpoints when it comes to religious freedom and protecting our children from this radical LGBT agenda, we'll win every time. However, the real vulnerability is whether or not we can get conservatives and Republicans to fight on these issues.
Let's follow up on that, because tell me about really the big issues that are at stake here and why it's so important for conservatives to mobilize, especially social conservatives.
Well, when people ask me what the big threats are from the LGBT lobby, I give them three numbers: 3 and 40. 3 because 3 years old is the age in which many LGBT advocates push to have children go through transgender affirmation therapy. This is when they lock children into their gender dysphoria for their entire lives. And 40 is the number of pediatric gender clinics that have opened up in just the past 2 years since the Supreme Court ruled that gay marriage was a right. These are very serious things, and we need to be countering them because our children's lives and futures are at stake.
And how do you think people can do that and can participate?
Well, there are many ways, but the number one way that you can get involved is to contact your member of Congress and any elected official that you know to make sure that they know that these issues are important to you. A lot of times members of Congress or other elected officials and senators will say that they never hear any words from their constituents about these issues. And so they need to hear from the voters and from their constituents so that they know that, hey, our children are really important and we don't want to confuse them about these issues such as gender.
A lot of big issues here, and of course it feels like we just finished a big election in 2016. 2018 is right around the corner. Terry Schilling, Executive Director of American Principles Project, thanks so much for talking with us.
Thanks for having me.